Why do we find it so hard to change, even when we know it's good for us? We are so very much engaged with purpose of outer value that we forget the inner value, the core, so to speak, that is associated with the good. That is what it's all about. I speak to you from the bottom of my heart, because when I was diagnosed, I had a malignant and deadly brain tumor when all experts and doctors literally given up on me, only gave me a few weeks to live. So I had little time left, no plan, no strategy. Then there was that gut instinct, that emotion, that feeling that was hidden and left, which of a sudden encouraged me to accept and trust what is and let go of fear I hold back. After a while, I was mentally ready to move on and to embark on the most controversial healing journey when I set off to a remote and secluded mountain monastery in the Himalayas, living as a Buddhist novice among a small monasterial community for many months. A decision no one would ever thought would turn out to be successful that made me who I am today. I feel very strongly we are who we are choose to be. So the question is, when we begin to change? In other words, where does one begin to bring about this fundamental change, which is so essential? What is missing is not motivation. We are simply not designed to deal with uncomfortable challenging the unknown and overcoming the unexpected. In fact, our brain is here to protect us so that we can survive. Studies revealed that when heart disease patients who had undergone traumatic bypass surgery were warned that if they did not adjust their lifestyles, they would die or at least undergo the life-saving procedures again, only 9% modified their behavior. We see this every day in organizations experiencing change. Research has determined that over 70% of change initiatives fail because lack of self-organization and people's resistance to change, as they are lacking the ability to deal with the unknown and the unexpected. Hence, the core challenge is changing behavior in the face of our brain's tenuous desire to maintain the status quo. Changing a habit or embedding a new behavior takes effort and focused attention. Overriding habits can feel psychologically uncomfortable and, quite literally, even painful. It's no wonder people often avoid change or find it difficult to maintain the commitment to change. Under pressure, tired, or when distracted, our prefrontal cortex can't keep us focused and we quickly relapse to early behaviors and habits. It takes substantially more effort to think about and do something new than to react out of instinct or habit. When we feel threatened to a proposed merger or restructuring in the organization, for example, or representation before a large audience, we are inclining to avoid that seems threatening rather than embracing it. We feel uncertain, we focus on the negative, and we disengage. Our prefrontal cortex also has lower reserves of energy, oxygen and glucose, so we are less likely to make good decisions, take on new ideas, or appreciate the big picture. The trouble is that our brain is not made to think, but rather to seek assurance that we feel safe, secure, inspired, and at ease, so that we can coordinate all our human processes, so that we stay in balance, and so that we can keep appropriate distance with our sensory organs. The objective in this process is that the brain saves energy to become sustainable. Today, we know that 20% of our energy is absorbed by the brain alone. To survive, we need to adapt, and that requires an increase in energy the brain needs to initiate the change. This then makes us feel uncomfortable and often anxious and insecure because we are not wired this way, trained for change, or used to it. So, when we initially think of change, we project ourselves as not making any sort of transformation. Rather, we attract negative feelings that maintain the status quo. Consequently, the failure of change is significantly high. This is not from a lack of striving. In fact, it is the opposite. Change is driven by purpose, meaning, which makes sense after all, which literally goes under one's skin because we want it. Because we are striving by thought and knowledge, and both are limited, we often lack comprehension to actually see the need for wanting to change. In other words, to maintain this coherent state overwhelms us to such an extreme that we give up believing and wanting it. That is why changes can only be successfully realized when we are in a conscious state at ease of self-awareness, from which we design our vision that gives answer to purpose, values and virtues, and gives the way to the big picture. Once we embrace a vision, change comes naturally and it's initiated successfully because it makes sense and it is dignified. Understanding the neuroscience of change and how the brain operates during change can help us manage and diminish change resistance and develop strategies to maximize our brain's capacity for neuroplasticity. Because we are driven by habit and attachment, believing we derive from this inner security to deal with life. As soon as we are challenged with unexpected or the unknown, we flounder and fail. We find it hard to let go of something we have protected for so long and are not willing to release, as we then feel insecure and bring doubts about the ability for our habits or attachments to actually deal with change. Only later we realize that we were wrong. The opposite happens when the reward system is activated. Let's assume our presentation goes well and we receive great feedback, recognition, acknowledgement. We then feel secure and safe, admitting a feeling of bonding and belonging. We want to make the most of our positive emotions and experiences and are more eager to engage with people, ideas and solutions. Our brain releases dopamine to feel better and we are therefore likely to repeat the behavior. So, how can we leverage our brain's capacity to approach change and reshape habits that no longer serve us, adopting new, more desirable attitudes and behaviors? Only willpower, focused attention, and mindful actions can be used to push through resistance and rewire habitual patterns. This process of intentionally changing our brain's circuit is called self-directed neuroplasticity. It is not enough to practice this ever so often. We need to pay attention repeatedly to new actions and insights over a period of time until they are inculcated into the process of how we operate and see ourselves. Creating rituals to embed new behaviors into daily life is critical. Reinforcing positive change with support and immediate feedback from others, a body leader or mentor, will tap our reward system and associate new behaviors with positive emotions and learning. It also helps if we find ways to make changing our new habits interesting and fun. Each of these principles and others impacts the way our brain fires and feels. This, in return, affects our behavior, decisions, and performance. The more we practice these skills, the more we will allow those neurons to connect, and through neuroplasticity, create the new connections we need to regulate our emotional and instinctual reactions more effectively. Because our neurons work in the same way, the more we drive down one particular path, the easier it becomes.